If you're a believer in Jesus, today, the Thursday before Easter, should be a special day to you. Christians around the world will celebrate this day, and I've not seen this before in Luke chapter 22, but today should be a day in which you celebrate the reality that despite your sin and shame, despite your denial, your doubts, your suffering even, Jesus sees you right in the midst of that. He sees you more deeply than anyone else. And he still loves you. He still goes to Friday. Let me explain. In verse 54 of chapter 22, it says that they seized him, Jesus, and they led him away. They took him to the high priest's house. And the next verse says that Peter was following at a distance. And the story goes that they made a fire, and there are people sitting around the fire. And Peter is there, and there are three people who say, "Hey, aren't you Jesus' friend, Peter? Aren't you the disciple? Aren't you that Galilean?" And three times in a row, Peter denies that he even knows Jesus. He says the last time, "Man, I do not know what you're talking about. Man, I do not know what you're talking about." And before he even finished speaking, the rooster crowed. Now, Jesus had told Peter before, "You're going to deny me, and there will be a rooster crow." And this is an incident in which Peter is exposed. He denies Jesus. Now, people knew that he was with him, but he's denying it. He's saying, "No, it wasn't me." And what's interesting to me, and I hope this will be encouraging to you, if you believe in Jesus, you believe in a God who sees you right in the midst of that shame. And that is indicated here in verse 61. It says this: "The Lord," right after the rooster crowed, "the Lord looked at Peter." The Lord was close enough that he knew what was happening. And when the rooster crowed right after Peter had denied Jesus, Jesus could see Peter in the distance. And what's interesting, what should be compelling and offering encouragement and peace to you and me if you believe in Jesus, is that verse 61 happened. Peter denied Jesus. Jesus looked at Peter. He saw him in the midst of his shame and denial. And yet Jesus still, the next day, willingly went to the cross. Romans 5:8 says that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. That's for you and for me. Because God sees you more deeply than anyone. He knows exactly what's going on, not just in your actions, but in your heart. He knows you. He knows your denial. He knows your doubts. He knows when you sin, when you break his law. And yet, right in that very moment, he still loves you. In fact, he loves you so much that not only on Thursday does he see you, but on Friday he goes to the cross. And he willingly sacrifices himself so that you and I might have a relationship with the Lord. This is not about a religion. We're not practicing some sort of tradition. We're looking at the scriptures, the Bible, the words of God, and seeing that God loves us. And he loved us with action. He sees you in your shame, in your pain, in your suffering, in your denial, in your doubts, and he still loves you because he still goes to the cross willingly on Friday.